Good morning. I'm going to start with Baha'u'llah's Tablets of the Hair. Tablets of the Hair, La-i-Sha'arat, by Baha'u'lláh. He is the Almighty. My hair is my messenger. It is calling aloud at all times on the branch of fire, within the hallowed and luminous garden of paradise, that perchance the inmates of the realm of creation may detach themselves from the world of dust and ascend unto the retreats of nearness, the spot where the fire seeketh illumination from the light of the countenance of God, the glorious, the powerful. O ye that have consecrated yourselves to this fire, sing ye melodies, pour out sweet tones, rejoice with exceeding gladness, and make haste to attain the presence of him who is the object of adoration, bearing witness that no God is there besides God, the all-knowing, the all-wise, the all-compelling. He is the God of wisdom. My hair is my phoenix. Therefore hath it set itself upon the blazing fire of my face, and receiveth sustenance from the garden of my countenance. This is the station wherein the son of Imran, Moses, removed from the feet of selfish desire the coverings of the attachment to all else but him, and was illumined by the splendors of the light of holiness in the undying fire kindled by God, the potent, the gracious, the ever-forgiving. He is the most excellent, the best beloved. A lock of my hair is my cord. Whoso layeth fast hold on it shall never to all eternity go astray, for therein is his guidance to the splendors of the light of his beauty. He is God. My hair is my veil, whereby I conceal my beauty, that haply the eyes of the non-believers among my servants may not fall upon it. Thus do we conceal from the sight of the ungodly the glorious and sublime beauty of our countenance. He is the eternal. My hair beareth witness for my beauty that verily I am God, and that there is none other God but me. In my ancient eternity I have ever been God, the peerless, the everlasting, the ever-living, the ever-abiding, the self-subsistent. O denizens of the everlasting realm, let your ears be attentive to the stirrings of this restless and agitated hair as it moveth upon the Sinai of fire within the precincts of light, this celestial seat of divine revelation. Indeed, there is no God besides me. In my most ancient pre-existence, I have ever been the king, the sovereign, the incomparable, the eternal, the single, the everlasting, the most exalted. O peoples of the heavens and of the earth, were ye to sanctify your ears, you would hear my hair proclaim that there is none other God except him, and that he is one in his essence, and in everything that beareth relationship unto him. And yet, how fiercely have you cavilled at this beauty, notwithstanding that the outpourings of his grace have encompassed all that dwell in the billowing oceans of his revelation and creation. Be ye fair, therefore, in your judgment concerning his upright religion, for the love of this youth, who is riding high upon the snow-white she-camel betwixt earth and heaven, and be ye firm and steadfast in the path of truth. Here is a quote from the Kitáb-Í-Iqán, the Book of Laws, or the Most Holy Book, by Bahá'u'lláh. This is not a cause which may be made a plaything for your idle fancies, nor is it a field for the foolish and faint of heart. By God, this is the arena of insight and detachment, of vision and upliftment, where none may spur on their chargers save the valiant horsemen of the merciful, who have severed all attachment to the world of being. These truly are they that render God victorious on earth and are the dawning places of his sovereign might amidst mankind. Here's another quote from Baha'u'lláh. This is found in the Letters to the Kings. O King, I have seen in the way of God what no eye hath seen, and no ear hath heard. Friends have disclaimed me. Ways are straightened unto me. The pool of safety is dried up. The plain of ease is scorched yellow. How many calamities have descended, and how many will descend. I walk, advancing toward the Almighty, the Bounteous, while behind me glides the serpent. In my eyes rain down tears until my bed is drenched. But my sorrow is not for myself. Yea, because I see mankind going astray in their intoxication, and they know it not. They have exalted their lusts and put aside their God, as though they take the command of God for a mockery, a sport, and a plaything. And they think that they do well, and that they are harbored in the citadel of security. The matter is not as they suppose. Tomorrow they shall see what they now deny. It's Baha'u'lláh. I'm going to recite the tablet to the northeastern states. O thou kind Lord, praise be unto thee, that thou hast shown us the highway of guidance. Open the doors of the kingdom and manifested thyself through the Sun of reality. To the blind thou hast given sight, to the deaf thou hast granted hearing. Thou hast resuscitated the dead. Thou hast enriched the poor. Thou hast shown the way to those who have gone astray. Thou hast led those with parched lips to the fountain of guidance. Thou hast suffered the thirsty fish to reach the ocean of reality. And thou hast invited the wandering birds to the rose garden of grace. O thou Almighty, we are thy servants and thy poor ones. We are remote and yearn for thy presence, are athirst for the water of thy fountain, are ill, longing for thy healing. We are walking in thy path and have no aim or hope save the diffusion of thy fragrance, so that all souls may raise the cry of, O God, guide us to the straight path. May their eyes be open to behold the light. May they be freed from the darkness of ignorance. May they gather around the lamp of thy guidance. O Almighty, look upon us with the glance of mercifulness. Grant us heavenly confirmation. Bestow upon us the breath of the Holy Spirit, so that we may be assisted in thy service, and like unto brilliant stars, shine in these regions with the light of thy guidance. Verily thou art the powerful, the mighty, the wise, and the seeing. That one's by Abdu'l-Baha. And there's another one by Abdu'l-Baha that I'd like to say. This one is for America. And you'll notice that in this prayer, Abdu'l-Baha talks about this revered nation and this just government. I think what he means is the fact that we have a form of government that allows the people to have a voice. And he also prays for the spiritualization of this country, as he says, even as it has aspired to material degrees. So he's really focusing on the positive. But it's very clear in the writings that America has a lot of work to do, as we know. O thou kind Lord, this gathering is turning to thee. These hearts are radiant with thy love. These minds and spirits are exhilarated by the message of thy glad tidings. O God, let this American democracy become glorious in spiritual degrees, even as it has aspired to material degrees, and render this just government victorious. Confirm this revered nation to upraise the standard of the oneness of humanity, to promulgate the most great peace, to become thereby most glorious and praiseworthy among all the nations of the world. O God, this American nation is worthy of thy favors and is deserving of thy mercy. Make it precious and near to thee through thy bounty and bestowal. Abdu'l-Baha. Any prayer requests out there? I'll say one for healing. Thy name is my healing, O my God. And remembrance of thee is my remedy. Nearness to thee is my hope. And love for thee is my companion. Thy mercy to me is my healing and my succor, in both this world and in the world to come. Thou verily art the all-bountiful, the all-knowing, the all-wise. I'll also say, that was by Bahá'u'lláh, I'll also say one for unity. O my God, O my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal to them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor, and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily thou art their helper and their Lord. And now I'm going to continue with our study of the Kitáb-Í-Iqán, the Book of Certitude by Baha'u'lláh. And we're on page 32, and he's talking about the founders of the world's great religions. And he's talking about how really they're all one, because even though certain aspects of their teachings were geared toward the times or the culture, fundamentally, they were all vehicles for the Word of God. They all gave up any vestige of selfishness, and they became luminaries for mankind. So he says that these divine luminaries seem to be confined at times to specific designations and attributes, as you have observed and are now observing, is due solely to the imperfect and limited comprehension of certain minds. Let's see if we can lower this a little bit. Otherwise, they have been at all times and will through eternity continue to be exalted above every praising name and sanctified from every descriptive attribute. So he's saying, even though there have appeared to be limitations on these founders of the world's religions, really, they're so far above our understanding that no matter what we say about them, it really doesn't encapsulate it. That they're beyond any kind of description. The quintessence of every name can hope for no access unto their court of holiness, and the highest and purest of all attributes can never approach their kingdom of glory. So he's saying, these divine messengers are so far beyond us that even though we as human beings may attain to certain virtues, we can never hope to touch the hem of their garment. So this is really very similar to what Baha'u'lláh writes about God, that you can't say anything about God. Now he's basically saying the same thing about the messengers. Immeasurably high are the prophets of God, exalted above the comprehension of men, who can never know them except by their own selves. So when he uses the word prophet here, Baha'u'lláh uses the word prophet in a couple of different ways. One is he uses the word prophet with a capital P to designate the founders of the world's religions, or with a small p to designate those who came after them, who aspired to living up to their teachings and reached great heights. And that would be with a small p. So that would be like Daniel and Isaiah and maybe people like Martin Luther King or Gandhi, although I can't say that for sure. I mean, certainly we know that they had some serious human failings, so I don't know if they would fit in those categories, but there are those who do. So he's saying the only way we can know these messengers is through what they did and what they said. We can't know them through what other people say about them. We have to know them directly. We have to read what they say. We have to find out what they did. Far be it from his glory, that would be God's glory, that his chosen ones should be magnified by any other than their own persons. So he's saying it's only what they say about themselves that really is the truth, not what we say about them. Glorified are they above the praise of men. Exalted are they above human understanding. Okay, so we talked about that. Now he's going to go into the meaning of some of these prophecies that have been so terribly misunderstood and interpreted literally and superstitiously, and have turned so many people away from God because of the ignorance of the followers who have insisted on these literalistic, unscientific, foolish meanings. Baha'u'lláh is going to talk about what do they really mean? What's the spiritual meaning underneath these metaphors? He says, the term sons, S-U-N-S, hath many a time been applied in the writings of the, quote, immaculate souls, unquote, unto the prophets of God. Those luminous emblems of detachment. So this term, immaculate souls, he's calling them immaculate souls. I guess he's quoting somebody who called them immaculate souls. Because that's what they are. These founders of religions are perfect beings. And since human beings can't be perfect, they're of a different order. They're actually manifestations of God. They're beyond us, just as we are beyond the animals. They have a different capacity that we just don't have. So it's another kingdom between us and God. That's why they can guide us, because they're perfect. If they weren't perfect, they wouldn't be trustworthy, reliable guides. Among those writings are the following words recorded in the prayer of Nudbi. And that prayer of Nudbi is attributed to the 12th Imam, and it's called Lamentation. It goes, "Whither are gone the resplendent suns? Whereunto have departed those shining moons and sparkling stars?" Unquote. Thus, Baha'u'lláh says, it hath become evident that the terms sun, moon, and stars primarily signify the prophets of God, the saints, and their companions, those luminaries, the light of whose knowledge hath shed illumination upon the worlds of the visible and the invisible. In another sense, by these terms is intended the divines of the former dispensation. In other words, the leaders of religion, whether it be Islamic or Christian or Jewish or whatever, who live in the days of the subsequent revelations and who hold the reins of religion in their grasp. Okay, so he's saying, when a messenger of God comes, it's incumbent upon the people to follow that messenger and to loosen their hold on the religions that they were following before. And he's saying that, but that doesn't happen. What happens is the leaders of the religions refuse to acknowledge the coming of the new messenger. So that's what happened. For instance, I'm going to take Christianity as an example. The Jews were following the teachings of Moses and Abraham. But when Christ came, he reinterpreted some of those teachings which were being interpreted very harshly. For instance, he said that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And when the people tried to stone the woman who had had adultery, he said, "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." So he was reinterpreting these teachings in a humane way. And bringing new teachings and shedding light on what was meant by the old teachings. And he was also trying to re-emphasize the compassion of the message of God, that to take care of the widows and the poor and the orphans, and not to amass treasures and things that upraise the ego. And the same thing happened when Muhammad came. He was trying to renew the teachings of Moses and Jesus, but they proudly turned their back on him and refused to accept the truth of the new revelation. So these leaders of religion get in the way of people, of their followers recognizing the new messenger. And so when it says, so we're talking about the prophecies, so let's go on. In another sense, by these terms is intended the divines of former dispensations who live in the days of the subsequent revelations and who hold the reins of religion in their grasp. If these divines be illumined by the light of the latter revelation, that is, the new teachings, they will be acceptable unto God and will shine with a light everlasting. Otherwise, they will be declared as darkened. even though to outward seeming they be leaders of men, inasmuch as belief and unbelief, guidance and error, felicity and misery, light and darkness are all dependent upon the sanction of him who is the day star of truth. In other words, everything has to be measured by the teachings of the new prophet. And if it doesn't measure up, it doesn't measure up. The teachings of the new prophet comes and he sacrifices his entire life for humanity so that we can know how to move forward, so that we can know how to find peace and happiness, how we can know what issues are worthy of addressing and what are not, and so that we can be empowered in addressing those issues in a way that will have an impact. Because many of us spend our whole lives putting out all our energy, and then it seems like it just gets totally dissipated. Well, these messengers of God are trying to explain to us how we can put our energy out for justice in a way that's actually going to have an impact, a lasting impact. Whoever among the divines of every age receiveth in the day of reckoning the testimony of faith from the source of true knowledge, he verily becometh the recipient of learning, of divine favor, and of the light of true understanding. Otherwise, he is branded as guilty of folly, denial, blasphemy, and oppression. Okay, what's this saying? It's saying that the leaders of religion, during the days of the new messenger, the new manifestation, if they can recognize and put their faith in this new messenger, who is the source of true knowledge, that leader will become the recipient of learning, of divine favor, and of the light of true understanding. That leader of religion will begin to truly understand his own writings. Otherwise, he is branded as guilty of folly, denial, blasphemy, and oppression. Why? Because he has to make a choice. That person has put himself or herself on the pedestal of being a teacher of humankind, a teacher of spiritual truth. Now, if the teacher of spiritual truth is turning away from the source of spiritual truth, then he's promoting folly and oppression. It is evident and manifest unto every discerning observer that even as the light of the star fadeth before the effulgent splendor of the sun, so doth the luminary of earthly knowledge, of wisdom and understanding, vanish into nothingness when brought face to face with the resplendent glories of the Sun of Truth, the day star of divine enlightenment. So what's he saying here? He's saying that you can be a star, but when the sun rises, you're going to disappear. So you can be a star in the world of religious knowledge. But when the true teacher of humanity, the Sun of Truth, whoever that may be, in whatever age you live, has come, you need to learn from that person so that you can teach people truth. Now, I'm going to end there. Well, wait, maybe not. Okay, yeah, this is where I'll read this paragraph. He says that the term sun hath been applied to the leaders of religion is due to their lofty position, their fame and renown. Such are the universally recognized divines of every age who speak with authority and whose fame is securely established. if they be in the likeness of the Sun of Truth, they will surely be accounted as the most exalted of all luminaries. Otherwise, they are to be recognized as the focal centers of hellish fire. Okay, let's take an example here, because this is really meaty. Okay, so it's saying the leaders of religion have been called sons because of their lofty position, their fame and renown. They're universally recognized. And if they be in the likeness of the Son of Truth, if they follow and promote the teachings of the messenger of God, they will be accounted as the most exalted of all luminaries. Well, let's think about who in this age is a leader of religion who is promoting the very principles that Baha'u'lláh brought over 150 years ago. How about our current Pope? He is a shining example of the teachings of Baha'u'lláh. So he will be accounted, according to this, as the most exalted of all luminaries, and possibly also the Dalai Lama, who seems to be promoting similar values. These are the leaders of religion, the sons that shall not be darkened. They'll be accounted among the most exalted of all luminaries. Otherwise, they are to be recognized as the focal centers of hellish fire. Okay, let's think about that. So you've got other leaders of religion who are using their platform to make the rich richer and the poor poorer, and to promote prejudice and racism and violence and incite hatred. These are the focal centers of hellish fire. Even as he saith, verily the sun and the moon are both condemned to the torment of infernal fire. That's a quote from the Quran. You are no doubt familiar with the interpretation of the terms sun and moon mentioned in this verse. No need, therefore, to refer unto it. Well, I think he's talking more to the Muslims here, because I'm not, but one thing that comes to my mind is, no, that's not right. But we're talking about what it means. And whosoever is of the element of this sun and moon, that is, followeth the example of these leaders, in setting his face towards falsehood, which we just talked about, and in turning away from the truth, he undoubtedly cometh out of infernal gloom and will return thereunto. Okay, that's where we're going to stop today. So, before we go, I want to share one more prayer with you. I say this one fairly often. I just think it's so beautiful. Let me know if you think it's so beautiful too. Many a chilled heart, O my God, hath been set ablaze by the fire of thy cause, and many a slumberer hath been wakened by the sweetness of thy voice. How many the strangers who have sought shelter beneath the shadow of the tree of thy oneness, and how numerous the thirsty ones who have panted after the fountain of thy living waters in thy days. Blessed is he who hath set himself towards thee and hasted to attain the day spring of the lights of thy face. Blessed is he who with all his affections hath turned toward the dawning place of thy revelation, and the fountainhead of thine inspiration. Blessed is he who hath expended in thy path what thou didst bestow upon him through thy bounty and favor. Blessed is he who in his sore longing after thee hath cast away aught else except thyself. Blessed is he who hath enjoyed intimate communion with thee, and rid himself of all attachment to anyone save thee. I beseech thee, O my Lord, by thy name, who through the power of thy sovereignty and might hath risen above the horizon of his prison, to ordain for everyone what becometh thee, and beseemeth thine exaltation. Thy might and truth is equal to all things. And that's by Bahá'u'lláh. And I want to thank you for sharing this moment with me, and I hope that you'll join us again. Ya Bahá'u'lláh, O thou glory of the Most Glorious.